the Blathering Boomer. I'm working on a new rig right now, thanks to one of my guests, Craig Pastajardula. Um, I invested some money in a microphone. I'm not just blathering into my cell phone anymore,
You're still
I
a
got
boomer.
software that lets me do tricks and show things on screen. And right now, I'm joined by two very special people. Craig Pastajardula, who I probably, if you know me, you know him, and my good friend Prince Agrawal. Hey, say hi, guys. Say a minute or two about yourselves. Go ahead, Craig.
Prince against the wall. That's great that we're here with the Blathering Boomer, and these guys. And I would say look forward to seeing more of these guys chitter chatting around. And I'm glad that Ungie got the whole setup now. So now we have no mistakes. We're going to improve on it, but these guys are friends of mine. Yes, it's true, but they're also activists that I've worked with in the field before. The first time I met Prince was in New Hampshire when he came in from New York for the Tulsi Gabbard campaign in 2020. We actually celebrated that night in the event where I met the Jackman brothers, who are now, Eric's now kind of working with the RFK campaign. And I spoke to another Tulsi person who I met around that time that's also working with the RFK campaign. So, friends, yes, true, but they're activists and inquiring minds and people who got their mindset in what's going on in politics, what's going on in social issues. So I'm looking forward to a fun show tonight and talking with these two handsome gentlemen.
All right. Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is, to me, the Tulsi campaign became about more than Tulsi after a while, because it became about the community. We had a real community of Tulsi people, and we kind of, there was some real simpatico going on. And the fact of the matter is, having both you guys in my life never would have happened if not for Tulsi. I met each of you at Tulsi rallies, and 3,000 miles apart, but yeah, so Prince, what brings you here? What do you got to say to
So,
the Blathering Boomer tonight?
as it's been mentioned, I was heavily involved with the Tulsi campaign. I was the New York State coordinator. After years of being a inside track Democratic activist, local party club president, and Young Democrats activist, and longtime loyalist to the party, who eventually got to the point where I just couldn't support the Democratic Party. Similar to Tulsi, the cheating that was going on in 2016 was just so undemocratic and so against what I believed in, that I left the party. Um, and it was interesting. There was someone in Georgia, a state senator, a young black woman, who left the party today. And that seems to be a common trend of people just leaving the Democratic Party because of how narrow it's become. So, long story short, I met these guys as part of the Tulsi campaign. Um, I believe in trying to bring the Democratic Party back to what it was, the JFK FDR party that stood for the working class, and fought against special interest groups.
It'd be great to get there one of these days, absolutely. So, one of the reasons I'm creating this podcast is because of the social divide in this country right now. It's insane. It all, it was probably getting there, but 2016 caused a major disruption in the alliances that were previously forged, to put it very mildly. All the shenanigans with Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Bernie or bust, or you got to beat Trump and this and that, and people became extremely intolerant of each other's opinions. But besides the political divide, there was also a social divide. Well, I guess a socio-political divide. I listen to a lot of very different people, commentators from the whole spectrum of politics. But one thing that really grates on me is when I hear a conservative commentator derisively say the radical left or leftists or progressives. It hurts me that leftist and progressive have become dirty words in the minds of people who are pretty and otherwise pretty intelligent. And it's not that they're being stupid; they're just not seeing what I see, because the left, the actual left, which I consider myself part of for many decades, we were about peace, freedom. 18-year-old vote. You could be 18 to be drafted, but you had to be 21 to vote. No good. So, civil rights. did I say free speech? If I did, it's worth saying again.
Mhm.
So, and what passes for the left, what these conservative people refer to derisively, they're not for those things. They've co-opted the term leftist, they've co-opted the term liberal, progressive, and
The radical left.
so there's an exercise I'd kind of like to do with you guys today, and we do a little role playing if you're up for it. And I'm going to throw some topics at you, and one of you is going to just to illustrate that there's a difference between actual leftists and people who identify as woke. And I don't like isms. I don't even like labels. I don't even like using leftist as a label. But it seriously bothers me because I have very positive connotations with leftists since I'm in high school. Anyway, are you guys ready for a little exercise in role playing here?
So let me warm up to get into the woke mindset.
Yeah, well, we'll do that because
I think I'm ready.
Go watch a Dylan Mulvaney commercial.
I'm right now I'm being the boomer part of Blathering Boomer because I have to open up my document and I can only do one thing at a time, but here they are.
As you do that, I'm going to give my quick, and Pasta and, Ungi, you can throw in your view. But I would say, the current woke leftist view is essentially grounding every idea in some sort of victimization and attaching it to, some sort of minority group. Smaller that group, you can make that group the better, and then tying all sorts of victimization to that is essentially all you need to figure out what the woke mindset is.
It's the easiest way to weaponize a situation. That's the, what I'm saying? If you tie a victim onto it, whatnot, and then, also, I mean, there's something deeper about the wokeness too. The nuance by it is that they understand that the people who will fall for this stuff essentially are narcissistic fucking people, because what do they say?
Sure.
Oh, it's always about themselves. I'm doing this for that. I'm laying on my sword. I'm the white savior. I'm this way about, you know what I'm saying? It really is tied down to selfish people at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And they don't even realize that they're being duped. Go ahead, bud.
So it's okay. So that's generalizing, and that's great. And I don't disagree with any of what you guys said. But we're going to demonstrate the differences by example, one topic at a time. So I'm going to start you out with an easy one. Pasta, what would a woke person say to the question of whether it came from a lab or a bat?
What difference does it make? The most important thing is it's there. And I think we have to deal more with on the, solving the problem rather than thinking about where it came from, because we should all care about each other. We should all mask up and we should all take the jab, because therefore we're protecting each other. It's about public health and science. So I really don't, does it make a difference if it came from a lab or not? Think so, not.
Prince, what would a leftist say about whether it came from a lab or a bat?
What makes the most reasonable sense? We know that there was a Wuhan lab for infectious disease specifically focused on SARS and COVID in Wuhan, where this virus occurred. Maybe we should start there about, with our investigation of where it might have come from. Can I throw in my woke impression?
Sure.
You know what? You throw your woke impression in, and I'll do my leftist impression of that.
Sure. So, how dare you ask if it came from a lab? That's racist. That's bigoted. That's going to cause hate and violence against Asian Americans. You are a fascist for even suggesting it. Also, the government has told us what to believe. They told us what that it was naturally occurring, and we should never question what the government says. Fauci is the science. He is my God and my savior, and whatever he says, I have to obey blindly.
And
anything against that is fascist.
I think the woke would concentrate on the whole, it's not about your personal freedoms. The whole Arnold Schwarzenegger, screw your freedoms. But a leftist would say, guys, come on. How many times are we going to fall for this? What was our number one issue when we got on the street? It was Medicare for all. We understood that the big pharma and their lobbyists are evil, what they're doing. We understood they did experiments on people of color and other people, they didn't give a damn what happened when they shot people up with syphilis. We understand what they've done in Latin America and Africa and using these people as lab rats. Why now are we in any way, shape, or form going to listen to them or trust them or believe them when they give us any first of all solutions on the COVID, or if they even try to talk their way out of the actual creations? We also know that there's been bioweapons testings for God knows how long, and Pandora's box was opened during the Patriot Act once again. I mean, you have to go back to Nixon to find a bill that's signed against, bioweapons testing. We know all this stuff, guys. Why would we fall for it again?
I like the changing roles. You guys both get to play act and
what about you?
Whichever one it is. Me? No,
Why don't you give us your woke and your wake?
I'm the facilitator. I'm facilitating.
But you don't have anything to add there that we missed?
To me, the evidence. We lost Prince. We're live. I can't edit that out, but we have a blank Prince. I'm going to remove Prince until he actually figures out how to log in. Anyway, the bottom line is the serious point I'm trying to make is, I mean, think about it, Pasta. 2 years ago, do you remember what the name of our fantasy football team was?
The Blathering Boomer.
No. You and I, our first fantasy football team was the True Progressives.
Oh, that's right. That's when it was cool to call ourselves progressives.
True Progressives. And maybe we still are the True Progressives. So I guess, what would a woke person say on the question of whether, I see Prince. So let's, I'm not sure if you've been listening, Prince. Can you hear us?
Your internet sucks, Prince. You got to get your internet fixed.
Yeah. Prince, say something.
Are you hardlined in?
Check your microphone, Prince. Not if you could hear us. We have Helen Keller.
Can you hear us, Prince?
On the bottom of the screen.
Can you hear us? Jesus.
Okay, well, we'll cover this ourselves, and if Prince wants to weigh in,
yeah, whatever.
You
So the True Progressives. You. By the way, remember the T-shirts, Super Progressives, with all the heroes on it? It's
vaguely.
It's kind of like your Tulsi song when you had all the people you thanked, right? And then all of a sudden you start eliminating those people. Well, her name is Ellen Burke, right? And I know her, and I saw her at a wedding recently, and I saw her at the Rebels for a Cause event. This is the lady who made those super progressive shirts. And those super progressive shirts, you start looking at it. You have Ilhan Omar, that's got to go. Rashid Tlaib, that's got to go. AOC, that's got to go. Chen and Anna, that's got to go. Tim Black, that's got to go. It's like all those people on those shirts have got to go. They've moved away from what it is to be, in my mind, a true progressive, and they really bent the knee because they didn't want to deal with the mob mentality of what their team was saying. And it really showed the true colors in these last couple of years. Same with COVID, right? It just showed you. Now you don't have to pretend anymore. Now I don't have to talk to these people who I thought were my friends, but I know they're not, because they've showed their true colors. They showed their true colors because they didn't stick to progressive values. They showed their true colors because they bent the knee to all the big powers when it came to COVID. Are you there, Prince?
Yeah. How dare you say that? Those are all my heroes. You're a white supremacist fascist.
So here's round two of a what would a wokester say and what would a leftist say. So I'm not sure how much you heard what we're just talking about, but how progressive has also become a dirty word. Mm-hmm. Illustrated by when Pasta and I, by the way, Pasta, the light is doing really weird tricks on your face. You look like Santa Claus a little bit. You have like regular colored eyes and all white below your nose. Look at him, he's not even listening.
Like the sun's hitting you.
But when Pasta and I first met in 2019, I think in the 2020 season, we were partners on a fantasy football team, and the name of the team was the True Progressives. We carried the name Progressives proudly, and now people with progressive values probably are afraid to be labeled so because of what passes for progressive these days.
Yep.
So with that in mind, sir, I don't know about you, but when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez won her primary against some mainstream Democrat, I got really, really excited and said, yes, a progressive is going to be in Congress. We need more of them. Well, maybe I was right and maybe I was wrong. So, Prince, I ask you, what would a woke person say about whether or not Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a progressive?
Oh, She's the progressive. Not only does she make me feel like a victim, she makes me feel like an empowered victim. She hates all the people I hate. She knows that the Constitution was written by a bunch of old white slave owners who shouldn't have a say in how we live in our diverse society today, and therefore, she wants to rip it up, to shreds, and instill her own values the way she dictates and the way she feels, and that makes you feel powerful, because as a minority, she knows exactly what type of victims we are and how to give us the power that we need to fight back against, this white supremacist, fascist, um, um, misinformation, totalitarian MAGA extremism that's overtaken the country. Pretty
All
close,
right.
right?
And you'll get your chance in a moment to give the leftist point of view as well. So, Pasta, take your pick. Which one you want to go first? Regarding the question: is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a progressive? What would a leftist say, or what would a woke person say?
Well, that's what I'll go for a leftist first, because it's a lot easier, because I can still feel the disappointment from AOC. Really thought she was going to get in there and be a fighter for us, but instead she bent the knee. And then now the question is, was it always meant to be? Was she always like a wolf in sheep clothing, or did she just change when she got there? It's kind of like the lab leak theory. Was it a leak, or was it let out on purpose? Well, there's a lot of information out there that tells me that it was let out on purpose. Like there was a lot of information out there that AOC was a plant put there. You look at her history, where she traveled, her connections with people from the CIA. So as a leftist, I would say, well, listen, let's be honest here. She was definitely a failed experiment. We didn't care so much about the culture wars as we cared about the economics and the foreign policy and ending corruption. In other words, anybody who's coming in fighting for the progressives, for when we put you there, their number one job would be to fight the machine, to fight corruption, not bend to it. That's the first thing she did, was bend to power and gave into power rather than fighting there. She's been absent on foreign policy issues, including funding Ukraine. She's been terrible. She made her switch on the Iron Dome. When it comes to economics, she avoids, talking about censorship and any other finances, and always just goes for the culture war bullshit. So a leftist will identify a woke person because they will immediately use culture war issues, because why? They can victimize people and they can weaponize it therefore that easy, and that gets them away from talking about the real issues that are important, which is our economics, which is tied into our military industrial complex, which is tied into all these big agencies that have been captured. So that's why we know she's a fake.
Prince, you want to take a crack at the leftist point of view on this one?
Yeah, and I'll build a little bit on what Pasta said. She's definitely a fake. Although I will say she wasn't a failed experiment. I think she's exactly what she was supposed to be, and what she was intended to be, which was a distraction and a weapon against the real progressive movement. And it's funny you mentioned about real progressives. I've used that term a number of times, especially in various chats, and a lot of fake progressives get super offended by that for obvious reasons.
Right.
But I do think AOC ended up being exactly who she was meant to be, which was a distraction. Essentially, like Pasta was saying, the progressive movement has always been kind of an economic movement, steeped in reasonableness and logic about what's best for the people. And what AOC has done is she has served as a useful distraction for Pelosi and the rest of the Democratic Party to essentially derail the progressive movement into an emotional victimization, divisive, divide and conquer by race and gender and any sort of minutia you can think of, essentially divide and conquer the country for power. And she's played her part perfectly, as intended, to the detriment of all of us, and it's really the detriment of the true progressive movement, which is, reasonable thinking people making reasonable decisions for policies that are supposed to help the working class. And that's what it was always really supposed to be about, was the working class, not divide and conquer.
Anything else on this, Pasta?
No, I mean, a woke person would be like, oh my God, how can you say that about AOC? Her pronouns are he, her, she, them, Your Royal Highness. She has been fighting for us. She's been protecting everybody in the LGBT community. You bigot, you misogynist. She's just been there for us. And I can't believe the fact. Listen, I know they're not perfect. I know we can't get everything for them. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And besides, Prince and Ungi, who aligns with us progressives more? Other progressives, not libertarians. They're racist.
Wow. Okay, guys, ready for the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Pick a number between 1 and 59, Prince.
32.
Back when I was a kid, and maybe when you were kids too, there was a show that was on TV often. They made a movie about it. It was a comedy group called The Little Rascals.
Mm-hmm.
Viewed through the lens of today's societal values, some people have an issue with it. Others think that this is just part of Americana. So what would a woke person say about The Little Rascals, Craig Pastajardula?
What would they say about the Rascals today? Meaning what?
In other words, should The Little Rascals be banned from all media?
No, no way. No way. No way.
No, what would
None
a woke
whatsoever.
person
I don't care
What
what Bill
would a
Cosby
woke person
says. No.
Okay.
Okay.
He can't.
I'll
He
give
can't
you
even.
woke.
He can't even fake it. It's okay.
So, of course you should. You know, it's a bunch of white kids. It shows privilege. It shows exclusion. You had that token black kid, and I think there was only one female character. You know, she wasn't even a girl boss. You know, no gay, no trans kids. You know, no one transitioning. Yeah, I mean, they're 8. They should be. You know, at least 2 of them should be transitioning by now. You know, hormone blockers at least. You know, it's totally unrepresentative. You know, it needs to be completely flipped upside down. You need a majority black cast or minority cast, and at least 3 trans characters. You know, majority women or identifying as women at least, and the enemy always has to be MAGA Republicans on every episode.
You know, you're saying that it's kind of funny, but at the same time, it really does address the main point of why I'm doing this, which is people are saying that kind of shit. They're saying it out loud, and they're saying it with many, many followers on TikTok, and it's causing a backlash, and this is what leads to progressive leftists being dirty words. You know, so again, my if I have a mission in all this, it's to reclaim the left for actual leftists. So okay, maybe that wasn't the best of the questions. Let's do one more. Give me a number between 1 and 59, Pasta.
59. Only because it's 10 shy of 69.
Oh,
Ooh.
something that sexists would say.
Boom.
Okay, so this is what would a woke person say and what would a leftist say? Who is a better spokesperson for the Indian community, Vivek or Ro Khanna?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Who is a better spokesperson for the issues regarding the Indian community, Vivek or Ro Khanna?
You're gonna have to
Vivek.
ask Prince that shit because I can tell you them both are not good spokespersons for the Italian American community. Go ahead. This guy, this fucking guy.
Okay, pick another number. That's
I
a
would
tough
definitely
question.
say it's going to be Vivek Ramaswamy, and I would say that because of my experience of working in the Indian field, the Hindu field. You know, following Tulsi and meeting a lot of people who are Hindu. The Hindus in America tend to be a little bit more conservative leaning, so I think they feel that Vivek would more represent them, especially their hate for China, the anti-China kind of sentiments there. So I think that I said that Vivek would be a better spokesperson for Indian people, Prince, because number one, the Indians tend to be a little bit more conservative in the United States. They tend to have more of a suspicious attitude towards China. And I think that he would be definitely more of a, I think Ro Khanna tends to just, kind of represent more of the woke culture and the leftist Democrats. And that's not really representative of the Indian, the Hindu block of voters out here. We remember when Modi was coming during when Tulsi was running, and Tulsi ended up not going to the Howdy for Modi thing. And I thought it was a bad mistake. Why? Because then all of a sudden you got Donald Trump showing up. Donald Trump was smart. He knew there was a big conservative Indian bloc he could get to. And I thought with Tulsi not showing up at that Howdy for Modi thing, her kind of acquiescing to
Tulsi
the
was
pressures
there.
of the progressives, I thought that was a bad move because she could have got them. And, she once again, she's that independent thinker that can really get those things. Ro Khanna's not an independent thinker. He's an American Democrat through and through.
So I take it you're saying that as a leftist and not as a woke person.
As a leftist, yes.
So
yeah,
I mean, yeah, and so
let me just. There's a little bit of context for how this question got in there, and Prince and I talked about this when we taped last week. Vivek got into a dispute with Joy Ann Reid, and he challenged her to a debate, and her answer to being challenged to a debate by Vivek was to have Ro Khanna come on her show, as if Ro Khanna could represent Vivek's point of view. And Prince actually made a great analogy. It would be in the same situation for him to go on Candace Owens and assume that Candace Owens, because they're both black, would express the same point of view as Joy Ann Reid. So that's
how racist the Democrats are. They don't even realize it. The fact that they go, we'll just put Ro Khanna on there. All Indians think alike. That's how racist they are.
It's meaningly racist.
So because of the way questions framed about which one's better representation of the Indian community, I'm not even going to give you the leftist or the woke. I'm going to give you the Indian perspective, and that is it's definitely Vivek, in large part because Ro Khanna doesn't represent any community. All he represents is what the Democratic Party establishment tells him. He does not really even have a base. He doesn't have a moral compass. He has pollsters and bosses within the party that dictate what he should believe. Vivek at least tries to, articulate what's best for, both, the Indian American community and, the United States as a whole. Back to what possibly you were saying about, the Indian community tends to be more conservative. It's on both sides. They tend to be, pro-choice, but they tend to be, not wild. The younger generation, does vote very heavily Democrat. So it does kind of go both ways, and the whole fear of, one of the things that's sad is the fear of, white Christian racist has penetrated the Indian community, which has, pushed them to vote 2/3 Democrat. But I do think that's unraveling. Seeing how bad Kamala Harris is, seeing how bigoted the Democratic Party is, has definitely, I think, pushed people away. And here's a great example. Tulsi, like you mentioned, is Hindu, and I've never seen so much vitriol and so much Hindu phobia as I did in the 2020 campaign in both New York and in New Hampshire, as I did, towards by Democrats toward Tulsi. Republicans, independents, they're all fine. They're all respectful. They're all, even the hardcore, Christians would be respectful to the fact that Tulsi was a Hindu. But, a lot of, especially the woke, but a lot of Democrats were the most bigoted people I'd ever seen. And, I'm pretty sure Ro Khanna would have no problem throwing, his own people under the bus, as the Democratic, leadership told him to, because he's a pawn. He's not an independent thinker. He won't make any decisions based on a moral compass, what's good or bad, or what's right and wrong. Everything he does is based upon what the leadership tells him, because he's ambitious and he will do anything he can to climb the social ladder, like Gavin Newsom and Harris and pretty much most of the party at this point. So whereas Vivek at least tries, and you may disagree with him, he will at least articulate views that are beneficial to the Indian community, Asian American community, and in some ways the United States as a whole. Ro Khanna is just the mouthpiece. He's an echo chamber for the Democratic Party.
Ro Khanna doesn't even have control of his own seat. His seat is owned by Silicon Valley. He's a puppet through and through. He's a puppet of Silicon Valley. He's a puppet of the Democratic Party. It was disgusting for Joy Ann Reid to sidestep Vivek. And I don't even like Vivek. You guys know how I feel about Vivek Ramaswamy. My red line personally is being anti-China. Not to say that they're the Boy Scouts, but I don't want another war. So for me to hear Vivek say these things that we have to sanction and cut off China, I think is wrong. But at least it's coming from his mouth, his mind, and his heart. And I respect him for that. Unlike Ro Khanna, who's just out there as just a mouthpiece, a stenographer for the ruling class, not for the working class.
Well, and kind of going back to what Ungi brought up, I mean, yeah, it started off because Jordan Reed was afraid to debate Vivek. And keep in mind, Vivek was the person who got Don Lemon fired. It was like a week after his interview that Don Lemon got fired because Vivek showed him to be a hack, and Joy was afraid of that. And
Yeah.
it
It's
was
Don
amazing.
Lemon, by the way.
Yeah, sorry. And
That's my wokeness.
her open and blatant racism of just saying any brown will do, any which kind of goes to the whole Democratic mantra anyway. Any blue will do. Whether you're brain dead or not, any brown will do. We're all interchangeable. We're not racist, but we're
Yeah.
super racist. It just shows and she picked Ro Khanna specifically because she knew he would just be a groveling little puppy. And if you watch an interview, he's just a groveling little puppy. He will say whatever he needs to pander and appeal. At least Vivek, he'll present his thoughts and he'll defend it. Ro Khanna can't defend, what flavor ice cream he wants. He'll wait for Joe on chocolate chip and he'll chew chocolate chip.
That's where the American leftists are now at. You know what I'm saying? They can't even argue on principle anymore. They're just nothing more than mouthpieces out there. Mob mentality, just repeat shit. They become so sad. You know what I'm saying? Really, to tell you the truth.
Well, and that's the biggest thing.
But they're not leftists.
They're just pawns to their special interest.
American left is what I said.
Well, and so what's interesting is that that woman, and I don't remember her name, but the state assembly woman in Georgia, African American, left the Democratic Party and joined the Republicans, which is as Joe Biden says, if you don't vote Biden, you're not black. That's the biggest crime in the Democratic Party, because the Democrats have such a small coalition. They are desperately dependent upon the black vote, which they get about 90% of since LBJ. And if that starts chipping away, they're done as a party because they need that block. That's why they're moving South Carolina #1 in the primaries, and that's why they're pandering so hard, to keep that vote. But as she noted, they don't do anything to help, African Americans. The dividing issue that forced her out of the Democratic Party was school choice, and she talked about how in her district 3% of kids can read, and less than 1% can actually do math at their grade level. And at the middle school grade level, less than 3% can actually read. And the Democratic Party is a pawn for their special interest. Like the corrupt teachers union, they will sell students and parents down the river just to pander to their teachers union that funds them and gives them support and whatever else. And that's the problem, is they don't serve the people, they don't serve the citizens of the United States of America. They serve their own power and their own elitist interests. And her leaving, it's going to cause a huge wave, not only because she's a woman, but because she's African American. And they hate the idea of letting people know that there's an alternative choice to the Democratic Party, especially minorities and especially women.
Wow. Well, I think we have established at least the beginning of a clear distinction between actual left and American left, or what passes for left, or wokeness, or however you want to label it. I don't think we have to go any further into the role playing, but I would like to do the lightning round. If you guys are game, I'll toss some topics at you and just say whatever comes to your mind for about 30 seconds. If you need a little more time, we'll give you a little more time. So that sound good?
Sure.
Sounds good.
All right. Lightning round. So Pasta, pick a number 1 to 59.
1.
Equity versus merit.
Merit. I mean, equity is one of those, once again, is the weaponization of culture issues, weaponization of race, religion, all that stuff. It's weaponized, so therefore they can move you in a certain direction and get you to go along with what the ruling class's plan is. So they've used that quickly. For instance, the best way I can describe that whole being used and twisted was, they don't have equity in these jabs. These other African countries aren't getting it. There's lacking equity. That's just something used to bullshit and further their own talks and their own nonsense, rather than what's merited. Well, is it merited that they really take it over there? Because they're doing, in a lot of parts of Africa, they're on hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, and I don't need it. So basing things based upon equity instead of merit, that wasn't the greatest excuse for merit, but merit would be from what we just experienced with the whole the whatchamacallit, the affirmative action situation. Do you know, when they found out that whole case, they found out that they were, judging people based upon character and personality, and that's just something that's opinion. But it took away the merit, and it moved it towards an equity situation where we actually had a block of people, Asians, getting discriminated against on. So that's why it's most important to stick with merit and not equity.
And we lost Prince.
And
Oh well, we lost Prince. He'll be back. I'm with you, by the way. So since he's not here, I'll state my own opinion. It's just to me, it's just pretty clear. We need. There has to be a motivation to excel, and personally, if I need brain surgery one day, or if I'm a passenger on an airplane, or have need for some very, very skilled person, I want the most skilled person dealing with my situation, and not somebody who got put in there because of some quota. And I say that as a person who believes very, very strongly in equality of opportunity, but I can't get behind equality of results. Go ahead, Prince.
I was going to go short and just say merit, but since we're giving explanations, I'm just going to say this briefly, is essentially the whole equity argument is designed for people who want to cheat. And that's really all it comes down to. We have a system. You go to class, you learn how to do arithmetic. You study, you figure out, 2 plus 2 equals 4. You figure out, 2 minus 2 equals 0. And, that's the system. And you have people who, do their homework, go to class, and do the work. And then you have people who don't. And essentially, the equity argument are for people who want to cheat and move ahead and get the A without doing the work. And sometimes it comes down to skill. Sometimes it comes with natural talent. Not everyone can be Kobe. Not everyone can be Jordan or Tom Brady. Some of it comes to natural talent, but some of it comes down, to hard work. Jerry Rice will often say he wasn't the best wide receiver. Randy Moss was a much better receiver than he was, but he worked harder, and that's why his stats are so much better. And the whole equity argument is to justify cheating and skipping the line and skipping the effort and jumping to the front of the line for no other reason than because you want to cheat and you figure out a way to, this goes back to, one of the foundations of wokeism, weaponize compassion. So Gandhi, his whole passive resistance was based on the idea that humans are good and are compassionate and they don't want to see each other suffer. And, but he held it, relatively restricted, based upon, core actions that need to be done, like, independence for India. What Saul Alinsky and the woke movement have discovered is that you can weaponize it far beyond to what Gandhi intended and use it as people's compassion as a hammer to smash them into mush. And that's what they're doing, and, this equity argument only has any justification in today's society. It would never have existed, 50, 100, 1,000 years ago. People would have laughed at you on the face. It only has any sort of, it's only tolerated now as even a concept because compassion has been weaponized to such a point that I fear in a few years, compassion will be destroyed because of how much it's been abused and used by the left as a weapon.
Wow.
Good stuff.
All
the light just came in perfectly for me right now. Now it's at the perfect lighting, right?
Yeah, right.
Before it was all it was all over the place. But now look how pretty I look, Angie, right? And Prince, you got to get this microphone
after a while.
Yeah.
See this microphone? They're like $250.
Well, I need a better
M7 with the. It goes with this piece right here. Goes right into the computer. Ungi's now got the setup. He's got the HD camera. He's got the microphone. He's got the computer. Look how perfect he looks now. Look how beautiful that man looks.
What I need is a better Indian IT person so I don't keep getting knocked off.
Well, you need to hardline your internet, have your internet decent, and then have one of these microphones and one of those high-def cameras, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I do. Should we do a couple more questions, but quickly? Ungi, do you want to do a couple more questions, but like 2-word answers?
Oh, now Prince is ready to rock and roll. Let's go.
We'll
Let's
do
go. He's
lightning. So
ready
Prince,
now. Let's go.
you pick the next number. Go ahead, Prince. What number?
8.
Donald Trump, villain or victim?
More victim than villain. Yeah, he's an asshole, but the court cases against him are incredibly weak. And I'll say this briefly: falsifying business documents is a big deal if you're Enron and a publicly traded company. If you're an independent, sole owner of a business, you can keep your records on a napkin and no one cares because you have no shareholders to defraud as long as you pay your taxes. And so, if they actually had real cases, maybe villain, but seeing how weak these cases are and how they're putting them in the most blue districts where in New York City he can be guilty of just being Donald Trump regardless of the accusation. I think puts him into the victim category.
He's more villain than victim, that's for sure. And I think we've seen this by some of his decisions. At the end of the day, the people he puts in place are the same with the old machine. The military-industrial complex budget never went down. It went up every single year. And he increased bombing in other areas. Yeah, he didn't start any new wars, but he didn't end any, and that's for sure. And also, Operation Warp Speed happened under his watch. In fact, it happened with him bragging about it. Operation Warp Speed. All these cases right now are not going to do anything. They're there to victimize him, to actually uplift him. And I think more people are moving on from him and moving to that guy who's on Prince's hat, and you have a T-shirt too as well. And I don't think it's about the people anymore. I think it's about the issues and the discussions we have. And to be frankly honest, when people say, what's the one area that Joe Biden was better than Donald Trump, a lot of people can't come up with stuff. But I know this personally because I work in Latin America. And Donald Trump has been awful, terrible, disgusting for Latin America. Sanctioning Cuba with his last week of his campaign, his presidency, labeling him a state sponsor of terrorism, and then him just announcing the other day as Joe Biden's ready to do business with Venezuela, we would have starved them out. We would have took it over. Like, he's openly cool with regime change. He's openly cool with the sanctions regime. At the end of the day, the big people, big pharma, big tech, the military-industrial complex, they'll get their honeypot whether Donald Trump is in there or not.
Wow. So this actually, I'm really glad this happened because you guys disagree on this. There was no name calling, and the whole reason these questions came up was because I'm trying to illustrate the point that even the most like-minded people are not going to agree on 59 out of 59 topics. So here we are, you guys. You disagreed, and you disagreed respectfully. You didn't call each other extreme MAGA or shitbag leftist or whatever, So that was exactly what I had in mind when I came up with this list. So okay, do you want to grab another one, Pasta?
Sure. Give me number 19.
We kind of already did this.
Give me 18 then. 18.
Justin Trudeau.
Come on, man. I mean, World Economic Forum leader, cuck to the ruling class, cuck to the globalist. Uses culture wars all the time. He's one of the worst of the worst. I every single time I hear Justin Trudeau, I think about what Klaus Schwab says. We penetrate the cabinets, and I mean he has been a World Economic Forum little pansy minion from the get-go. He is just awful. He is terrible. He needs to face jail time. He's one of those people that should be jailed forever for what he's done, and including like what we were talking about, this whole give, send, go thing. When you said to me the other day, it's like the truckers, right? What do they do for GoFundMe? They seized their bank accounts. They went illegally. They used emergency measures to look into people's information to find out where they were, to block them based upon their decisions on stopping a mandated jab from big pharma, from corporatism. He is the worst, absolute worst, Justin Trudeau.
Agreed. Trudeau's a tyrant. And I think the best example is the truckers. Not only did he go after the truckers, he went after the people who donated to the truckers in a very legal, very legit, free speech, right to protest way. And, I think the best sign of how much of a scumbag Trudeau is one, how he ran away from the Capitol. And then he lied and claimed to be suffering from COVID, despite giving a public speech. And then in the speech, he literally said, the only type of freedom of protest that's allowable is the type that he agrees with. And the dude's a scumbag. by he's a tyrant by every metric. And it's amazing that Canada has let him wield power as long as they have.
Wow.
On top of that, all that blackface, all that racist blackface he loves to do, and then brag about getting away with.
We seem to have strong agreement on that one. So I want to say this also, because I want to do this lightning round with everybody who comes on the show. And I want to right now extend an invitation. If anybody's watching this who is a fan of Trudeau's and would like to come on here, and I will be respectful and not interrupt you. If you'd like to give the pro-Trudeau point of view, please drop me a message in the comments or on Twitter, and we'll make that happen. Okay, whose turn is it to pick?
I got something for you though, real quick. Something for you real quick. Can you please share that, what I put on the screen?
Share what you put on the screen.
Down below. So that's the NATO summit, right? That's all the NATO people over there. People who just got lined up for a nice picture. Who's that all the way to the left over there? Who's that guy right there? Justin Trudeau. You can see him right there. And these are all the people who signed on. There's Biden, and next to that other jerk off, Rishi Sunak. There's Macron. Erdogan and made that picture. He was stupid. He should have called in sick. I don't know who that is. That's not Raul. I know that. It looks like him, but it's not him. But you can see there's all the NATO and the OTA and people who are pushing forth, death and destruction in the Ukraine. And of course, Justin Trudeau is all the way right over there. There he is.
They look like they're made out of wax.
You can remove it, Ungie. We lost him again. Jesus Christmas.
We lost Prince. Oh, did I?
We lost Prince.
We lost Prince. Okay.
Purple rain. Purple rain.
Wow. This has been fun, man. Thanks again for helping me launch this thing. And when Prince comes back, I'll thank him too. But
like I said, the thing is, it's just consistency. You go at a certain time, right? You go at a certain time and you do this, you'll have people come, and you'll get the audience that's perfect for you, because they'll be just watching you, and that's something that's always kept me going when I've been doing this, is the fact that I know that my audience that comes and sees me or meets me or does it, they're perfect for me, because they followed me, and that's what they're into. And it's just, it's the best type of relationship you'll ever have. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
it's better than any type of marriage or whatnot. It's, people would just get comfortable with you. They're comfortable with your show. And it's like you meet people that know so much about you and you don't even know about them. And that's another trippy thing. And it's great to meet those people, I mean, you never know how people are going to meet. Obviously, we met Prince because we were part of the Tulsi campaign, right?
Right.
I met you, Ungie, because we went to an event, and then you were, I didn't know who you were. I didn't know what you were going to do. I saw you with your ukulele and your freaking shirt on. I'm like, what the hell is this donkey going to do? And then you rocked the whole room, and ever since then, we've become friends and close friends. So you never know what's going to happen. But the thing is, now that you guys got this set up, Prince, try to make some thumbnails if you can. There's fun ways that you can do them, and just let it rip. Go get a time slot. Say we're going to go in these 2 times. And go live on those 2 times. And I don't care how bad you are. If you consistently go live on those 2 times for those 2 times a week, or if it's once a week, you'll have a following. People will be watching you, and they'll be listening, and they'll be joining in on the conversations, and things will grow.
Right. And I get to say the things that are on my mind instead of sitting on my couch eating my kishkazat.
And screaming at the TV screen. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
The doctor says take them out for a walk.
My mission here is I want I want to be able to say to people I identify as a leftist, and not get a weird look like I'm some kind of what they think a leftist is. The term left has been hijacked. Me refusing to vote for the Bidens of the world doesn't make me an extreme MAGA Republican, and me having leftist principles doesn't make me Mao Zedong. There's a lot of sanity to this, and the sanity's been lost. So I'm trying, this podcast is to have, and again, I want people of all political persuasions. Most of my friends over the last 40 years are people I consider woke. No offense, but that's what you guys are, and I'm not going to put anybody down. I promise I will not ever insult a guest. I want to give people a chance to express their point of view. I like it when people agree with me, and maybe I like it more when they don't. But we're not going to change each other's minds, but if we can get our point of views out there, that's what the free media is all about.
You know what it is too, Augie? A lot of people have been duped more than anything. They've been hoodwinked. And the thing is, the difference when I always talk about conservatives and leftists, conservatives and righties and leftists and the whole thing, and I've had the same argument with my friend Mark Fincham, who says, no, you're not a leftist, you're an old school liberal. Left is bad. So, you know what I'm saying? It's there's a lot of muddying of the waters when it comes to this subject and a lot of unpacking to do. But, when it comes to the left and the right, the conservatives, the majority of the conservatives feel that there's a ruling class and the left has been duped by it. The conservatives, that's how they look at the left. The leftist, the American lefts, look at the conservatives themselves, their neighbor. They're the problem, and they need to be dealt with. So they're falling from the American left, the woke left, the shit libs, whatever you want to call it. They've taken the bait more than the conservatives. Most of you conservatives still feel that, there's a ruling class out there, that's the problem, right? That, they've gotten people hoodwinked and confused, and they believe there's an entity that's coming over them. Whereas that left, they believe that the right, the neighbors, they believe that they are the problem themselves. And that's a very dangerous spot to be with. And that's why you see the ruling class leaning towards the left right now, because they're more about the divide within our neighbor rather than understanding that there's a ruling class that's oppressing us all.
You got me looking left and right so much. I feel like I'm watching Jimmy Connors against John McEnroe and Wimbledon. I'm looking left, I'm looking right.
So to build on that, and I want to throw a plug in here.
Go ahead, Prince.
You had what was the old left, which a lot of us, thought about when we thought about the Democratic Party. The FDR left, John F. Kennedy left, the RF Kennedy left, and it has been hijacked, especially the last 20 years. It's been hijacked by really a bunch of elderly, talentless people who have been desperate to hold on to power. I remember when I first got involved with the Democratic Party many years ago. I'm not going to say how old I am. They talked about how there was a generation gap because essentially the hippie generation that took over the party didn't allow new blood to come into the party in the 80s and 90s. Especially when the Clintons took power. They were so desperate to essentially be in power forever, the Clintons, the Pelosi, whatever, that they forced everyone else out. And one of the things they despised was people who were intelligent and who had talent, because those were the people that would be most likely to pose a threat to them. And, it's interesting. I was talking to a friend today, or earlier today, about, who do the Dems have if Biden can't make it through. He's looking older. He's looking old as
Gavin Newsom.
Well, and so that's the thing. They say Newsom's the next up, but Newsom's terrible. I mean, in a general election, you just need to keep running ads.
He's terrible to a lot of people who know him, though. He's not terrible to the normies out there.
Sure. So possibly think about this. If you just run ads, Aaron, what San Francisco looks like today, saying, "Do you want this to be your community? Do you want this to be your state?" He's going to lose everything. He'll lose in a landslide, but that is the
ready, Prince? Ready for this?
Huh?
Hold on. Take a look at California today.
You want me to share?
Democrats like Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom once had this one of the best countries out there. You can take that off. I don't want to show that. Take that off. They have this one of the best countries out there, but Republicans in the legislature ruined it for them. Vote for Gavin Newsom to stop the Republican pushback today. That's what they'll do. They'll frame it. People don't understand the politics that went on. They don't, and that's all the left will always do is they'll blame the right.
Pasta, you're missing the larger point, which is there's no talent in the Democratic Party. The reason that they're pushing Biden is they have nothing. What are they going to put up? Mayor Pete? He can't even get trains to stay on the track. He's focused on racist highways.
They're going to put out Newsom, though.
No, wait, so hold on. Kamala Harris has proven herself to be incompetent. Mayor Pete's proven himself to be incompetent.
They're not going to pick them. I just told you who they're going to pick.
No. Oh, Pasta, you're missing the bigger point. Hold on, Pasta, let me finish. Is the Democratic Party is so bereft of any sort of talent that the best they have is Newsom. And after him, they have nothing. There's no series of people of, you can just fall back on the next 10 guys. They have literally nothing that's appealing to the American people. They just have people that they can pander to, as part of their base, but they don't have anything that's actually appealing to the people. And a lot of that was by design, because as long as they didn't have anyone with talent, all the boomers or even older like Biden, he's pre-boomer, wouldn't have to worry about someone supplanting them. And that's how bad the Democratic Party has become. So to put my plug in, RFK Jr. Does remember what the Democratic Party used to be before it became the party of victimization and division and bigotry and everything else. He remembers when it was a party that fought against the corporate class, fought against the elitist, fought against corruption, and fought on behalf of the people. His uncle JFK used to say, 14 or 15 million people can pay people in Washington to take care of their interests. For everyone else, you have the President of the United States, and I plan on doing my job. That's what the Democratic Party used to be. Now it's the party of the limousine liberals, where they want to feel good about what they want, but they want to maintain their power most of all on the backs of the people. And so, you guys both talk about how you missed the left that you used to know, and we spent this whole podcast talking about how the left has gone to shit. How there's the left that we are, and then there's the woke left that is currently the base of the Democratic Party, which doesn't represent progress, doesn't represent anything good. It just represents hatred and anger and division and demonization. And the one person I think that can fix the left is RFK Jr. A man that has a strong moral core, who won't be baited, who won't be who won't pander. He's going to keep speaking truth to power. He may not be perfect, he may not agree with everything he has to say, but he's by and far the best that we have, and he's the best connection that we have to restoring the Democratic Party and the left to something that's at least reasonable and useful to Americans.
I think that you're hung up on that being able to repair the left. They're never going to let it happen. It's never going to happen in that party. And I think people need to accept that right now. They're not going to go, oh, well, he's the best chance we have. They don't hate RFK. They don't hate Trump that much where they would take RFK to replace him. They're not going to do that. They hate RFK more. So Trump at least pushed Operation Warp Speed. It gave them the wars they wanted.
So, Pasta, here's the thing is the Democrats don't care about cheating. And one thing I find fascinating is how people just kind of take it for granted. Even establishment Dems take it for granted that they pretty much believe the Democratic Party is going to cheat in the primary. And the fact that that's considered the new normal, that's considered acceptable, is appalling to me. But that's where we are.
As it should be. Yeah.
What happened to him again?
Yeah.
His internet is so bad.
Unstable guest.
He needs to get that. That's an hour, though, Ungie. I think we should probably wrap it up.
No, I was about to say, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys.
Longer than an hour.
Thank him again. And I know we had a couple of viewers. Some along.
Make yourself bigger and me small. Check it out.
Make me bigger and you small. Here comes Prince.
Well, go ahead. Click on the bigger and small. No.
Oh, I see.
There you go.
There we go. Now I can be the dominant.
See, now, and then you can just grab a hold of me and move me into the big or whatever and stuff. But it's an hour. He's wrapping it up, so we're gonna wrap up the show. And
I think it's knocking me off like every 12 minutes or something. I don't know what it is.
You need to get hardlined in there and get good internet. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't planning on being a podcaster, so yeah, I'll need to get set up for this. Just to finish the point, yeah, Democrats don't care about cheating, but they do. They do want care about being humiliated for being called out for cheating. They had no desire to let Obama win the primary in 08. That was supposed to be Hillary's, but the cost of taking it from Obama became too high that they had to give it to him. And I think that they don't want to give it to RFK. And yes, they'd rather lose with their own person than let RFK win. But I think the party can be taken back from them because so many people are so sick and tired of the party and how worthless it is. Plus, with all the scandals that was coming out against Biden, if they do try to keep Biden in there until April, I do think RFK can get enough delegates to wrestle the party away from the crooks that currently control it.
Well, we could
I don't
spend an
think so. I
entire
think that's a
podcast
pipe
on this
dream.
topic. It's a pretty rich topic, but I think we're past the hour mark, and I was hoping to keep
Yep.
this to half an hour. So I think I'm gonna call it a night with you guys. Any last words, either of you?
That's great seeing you
I
guys.
think you should just thank the guest and let them know you'll be around soon.
Oh yeah, I want to thank Craig Pasa Jardula and Prince Agarwal for gracing this first actual podcast with a real microphone, and hopefully the first of many. And thank you for the 3s or 4s of you that actually watch this. I'll be back. Peace out. The boomer has blathered.
No, you got to go back in there. Go back in there. Go back in there.
Can you hear you?
Ungi, go back in. No, go back into the StreamYard. Go back in. Okay. Now, on the top right, there should be a stop streaming, a live
and
button.
broadcast.
Yep. Hit that first.
Okay. Well, I definitely blathered, and now I'm being a boomer. I did not exit the program properly, so you guys got a little bonus time. Peace out.